Aloha everyone, what's really good my dudes? Today is August 3rd, 2020. We got another RuneScape update for y'all. Today we see the 9th Ninja Strike, this time focusing around some skilling portions of the game that will help you with double XP live. So without any further ado, let's jump right in the video, let's go.
Cats is the illest. What you talking about, Willis?
Alright guys, we have another Ninja Strike this time around. As I said, it will focus on strikes that will help make the upcoming double XP live events much better. So first and foremost, they've added a double XP timer pause. As it sounds, you'll be able to hit the pause button on your 48 hours for double XP whenever you wish, meaning you could safely go about preparing for the next skilling activity, or you can go boss, whatever may have you, and not worry about your bonus time going away. There is one caveat to this, however. If you choose to toggle either on or off, you are committed to that change for at least an hour. You cannot change it for a full 60 minutes. So think ahead. They say that pauses are indefinite and will persist across logins, but if the double XP time remaining is equal to or greater than the amount of time left in the event, then your pause button will be deactivated, since by then there'll be no point in pausing. And then they say that your double XP timer will no longer disappear after you've used up all of your double XP. Moving on, we have portable skilling stations. Improvements have been made to the examine text of the portable skilling stations, and it'll now show the time remaining on different color, which makes it easier to read, and which player originally placed the station, as well as the most recent player to extend it. Attempting to place a skilling portal station next to some of the same kind already nearby will ask the player if they'd like to extend one instead, and they've improved the messaging for when extending a station fails for various reasons. Moving on to Proteans, skilling dummies, and portables. Portable skilling packs, Protean packs, and skilling dummy crates now stack in the inventory, with other packs of the same type and size. There's now a use all checkbox interface when using Protean packs and skilling dummy crates, where players can choose to take Proteans and dummies from all packs of any size immediately. Protean bars now have a do not ask me again option when smithing, which will instantly open the Make X interface for Protean smithing. Various improvements have been made to the messaging displayed when converting Proteans, such as displaying how many Proteans will be converted and obtained. Protean power-ups have an Activate 1, Activate X, and Activate All options. These options will still adhere to the 2-hour limit on having Protean power-ups active. The examine of the Protean power-ups now state how long each one can be activated for. All three types of combat training dummies now have been turned into one generic combat dummy. When used, the player will be asked what kind of dummy they'd like to deploy. Skilling dummies of the same type now stack in the inventory. The space restriction for placing skilling and combat dummies has been reduced from 3 tile spaces apart to only 1 tile space apart. And various improvements have been made to the wording on interfaces for selecting Proteans and dummies from crates. Finally, moving on to some general changes from the Ninja Strike, other players' familiars and pets will now be hidden in the following areas: Hall of Memories, Shantae Pass, Artisan's Workshop, the Inner Ring of the Varrock Grand Exchange, Deep Sea Fishing Hub, Berthorpe Bank, Well of Goodwill, and the inside of the keeps of Clan Citadels. When loading silver jewelry, such as the Botanist Amulet from presets, the first available used version of the item will now always be loaded by default. This is to stop presets from creating more used versions and cluttering the bank. New pieces of silver jewelry now have new in parenthesis added to their names. The amount of cleansing crystals available from the Heaven Monks has been increased from 5 to 30. These will still restock at the same rate as before. And finally, the default Make X quantity for tipping headless arrows and creating darts has been increased from 10 to 20. That is it for the Ninja Strike. We're going to shift on over to the patch notes and see what else has been changed with today's update, so let's go ahead and check it out. Starting off with Desperate Measures, Thok and Hannibus will no longer appear multiple times during a sequence in Desperate Measures. Karos no longer incorrectly starts dialogue that should only have been taking place in Anachronia Base Camp. Selecting a preset in Bank no longer disables the Scabaros Communion boost granted by the Desert Pantheon aura, and dinosaurs have stopped shaking while walking. Moving on to Elite Dungeons, the Black Hands of Zautax's defense has been slightly reduced during the encounter with the Blackstone Dragon in the Dragon Laboratory Elite Dungeon. The height of the overhead enemy NPC target panel has been adjusted for the Black Hands Zautak as well as several mini-bosses in the Dragonkin Laboratory. Fire from the Blackstone Dragon fights no longer damages you once the encounter has concluded. Adding Elite Dungeon's lore pages to a partially completed lore book no longer creates a new book in your backpack if you already have one in the bank. Edward, the wilderness cape seller outside the Dragonkin Laboratory, now allows you to bank while in combat. Mopped up some of the blood in Astalarn's arena that could cause issues with target abilities such as Bladed Dive, and changing the blood in the Blackstone Dragon arena into inactive scenery. Players can no longer attack the boss from outside the boss arena. Instead, players will now teleport inside the boss arena after the boss is activated. Starting a boss fight will also teleport all players within the boss arena to its center. Combat dummies can now no longer be placed inside Astalarn's arena in the Dragonkin Laboratory. Some fixes: the Scrimshaw of Corruption no longer loses all of its charge if it's activated or removed from the pocket slot with exactly 19 minutes of charge remaining. And Olivia the Chronicler now uses female combat sounds. Moving on to some mobile changes, start off with improvements. A warning message will now show in the Grand Exchange when attempting to sell items that exceed the total amount of the player's inventory. Mobile players will now get a warning message when attempting to trade items that are untradeable. Made the World Select interface full screen and removed a white bar blocking the settings button on iOS. Modernized the presentation and position of the Shades of Morton minigame interface. And a couple of fixes: the buff and debuffs will no longer overlap the directional arrows during the Araxor boss fight. Fixed an issue causing a pop-up to block progression during the augmentation selection of the invention tutorial, and the double XP is active pop-up and double XP daily reward pop-up has been temporarily disabled on login, preventing a static black screen. Moving on to farming and herb lore. Updated potion tooltips that reference adrenaline/special attack gain to specify percentages rather than a value, and to match with the other adrenaline potions. It's no longer possible to use a bomb on a bank or an NPC. Instead, the player will now ask how many bombs they'd like to deposit. Extreme potion timer can no longer be extended by logging out and back in again. Ripper Demons and Corbicula Malum colors now appear the same on all graphic settings. And now when creating Primal Extract via the portable skilling well, you will receive the extra 10% experience boost. Finally, moving on to some other changes. A couple of improvements: they've disabled the player silhouette that occurs when emoting while obscured. The upgrade button no longer overlaps with the report button while inspecting a player in the legacy UI mode. Updated a fire on Mazcab that was using an older model. And clan Vexilliums can no longer be placed on or next to archaeology deposit carts. Shifting over to some fixes, it's no longer possible to spawn a duplicate Barrows Brother by clicking on the sarcophagus when they die. Fixed an issue with virtual levels not providing fanfare, fireworks, pop-up, jingle, etc. when gaining XP. Zaros Godsword special attack description now correctly says the black hole ability lasts for 20 seconds and not 30. Fixed a missing tile in the red axe base. Players can no longer surge or escape while wearing bed sheets. The click box for the Varrock Fountain has been reduced to allow players to cross through the fountain without needing to use the right click. Items manufactured at the workbench will no longer drop to the ground after unequipping a piece of gear to free up the last backpack slot. Animation is now fixed when climbing the ladder in Benedict's house in Varrock. The correct icon will now display when selecting an invention machine to build. The barrels at Manor Farm now all have the correct collision. When returning a Max Guild portal with Grace of the Elves equipped, the teleport will now take the player to the correct location. The Library of Next achievement now displays upon completion. Remove some blocking with the Wizard Tower Bridge. Keybinds on the action bar should now not be incorrectly used when a player destroys an item or set the keybind. Players can now shear sheep for wool with one empty backpack slot when the Have You Many Wool perk is active. Transmuting items with ancestral energy now gives the proper amount of output. Modeled light beams have been removed from the Fremnik Slayer dungeon as they were casting shadows. Players can no longer enter the King Black Dragon boss encounter while having the teleport block buff active. Fixed an issue causing hotkeys to trigger when typing in chat with the Treasure Hunter interface open. It's no longer possible to walk through agility obstacles inside a Big Game Hunter encounter. corrected an issue requiring you to equip spike gauntlets for the Turiel's Path achievements. An ancient familiar special move cast now grants the correct amount of summoning XP. Remove the force walk tiles north of Manor Farm that were preventing navigation. Players will now consistently receive level up pop-ups when gaining a virtual level. Resolved an issue in which players could be stuck when clicking out of dialogue whilst interacting with a pylon during the Desperate Measures quest. And they fixed an issue to prevent fishing bait from Ashdale being dropped on the floor, which allowed players to repeatedly claim free bait. Finally, we're going to close out with some hot fixes that made it to the game last week. A certain agility vine on Anachronia can once again be traversed. All chat now displays correctly. Transmuting ancestral energy now gives the expected 10 times resource instead of 1. And Karos now directs the player to the Anachronia base camp at a certain point during Desperate Measures, as Karos shouldn't be visible outside of the base camp at that stage of the quest. That is it for your patch notes. Links to everything discussed in this video will be down in the description below. Head on over there to check them out. With that, I'm going to wrap up the video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed yet and you want to stay up to date on all things RuneScape related, then hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I am out. Aloha.